I'm Claudia Trenkwalder, and today is the 19th of June 2016, and I'm interviewing Christine Klein, and we are here at the 20th International Congress in Berlin, Germany. So, Christine, first, it's a pleasure to interview you.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, and I'm glad to be here in Berlin.
That's nice. So, could you tell us about your early years of your education?
Yes, I'm a native of Hamburg, also here in Germany, and that's also where I started my medical school. After that, I moved to Heidelberg and then to Lübeck, a small city at the Baltic Sea coast where I'm now at. And in between, I also spent a year in England, in London and Oxford.
So that's also an impressive start. So why and how did you become interested in the field of neuroscience and Parkinson's disease and genetics?
This was actually also very early on. When I did my neuroanatomy, I already found that this is really the most interesting organ, and I really wanted to pursue this further. And then I did a medical thesis in the field of molecular biology. Then later at Queen Square, under the supervision of Neil Quinn, I had the opportunity to see many movement disorders patients. And really I thought to combine these two, movement disorders and genetics, molecular studies, is really the most interesting topic for me.
And did you have any role models or heroes in that field?
Yes. At the beginning, I think every single paper that I read, I thought, these people are all wonderful scientists and great people, and most of them really are. And so when I came to the very first Movement Disorders Congress in 1998, that was in Vienna, it was a wonderful experience when all of these names all of a sudden turned into faces. And really, for me, the most important people that supported me were Neil Quinn at the beginning at Queen Square. Then when I moved to Harvard, to Xander Brakefield and Laurie Ozelius, who taught me neurogenetics, and then later on Tony Lang, who has always been supporting my career and who taught me clinical movement disorders.
That's great. So what do you think, what is your major contribution to the field?
This is a really difficult question, and I'm hoping also that I'm still in the process of being able to contribute more. So far, I think we have helped raise awareness for genetic movement disorders and for the important role that genetics and hereditary factors play in the pathophysiology of movement disorders, and also have an impact on translational medicine already when it comes, for example, to counseling of our patients. So I think this is an important part. And I think another one, and that's very dear to my heart, is that I have always tried to also mentor young people, and now it has come to a stage where some
really
of my fellows are now also here up on stage, and that I'm very grateful for that and a little bit proud as well.
You can be proud of that, definitely. So, what do you think the field is headed in the next years, in the future? Where is the field going to?
Right. So with my genetics and molecular hat on, and this is something I would have said also 10 years ago, I think, but I'm thinking now we're closer. I think we're now really closer to move from an understanding pathophysiology of at least some of the movement disorders to translational aspects. So the first clinical trials, the first gene stratification programs, and also the first immunization studies. So I think genes are now starting to play, and our understanding of genetic movement disorders are starting to play a role also in the therapy of our patients. And I think that's one important area. Another important area, I think, is concerned probably with databases. And this is not just in the field of genetics, but everywhere. We're accumulating data at a lightning speed. And I think this is something we should take really good advantage of and really capitalize on, because I think combining all this knowledge, and this is an important role of the Movement Disorder Society, I think, combining this also at the international level and bringing everybody's brains together has never been as easy as now, and I think this is a wonderful thing, and we should really exploit that.
Good. What advice could you give to a young doctor, to a young scientist entering this field of neuroscience or of genetics, Parkinson's disease? What would you think is the most important?
Right, so the most important, I think, is to do it wholeheartedly. So really you have to commit and you have to like it. You'll spend a lot of time on this. So you better choose wisely and then you go for it. I think this is important. And then I think another piece of advice, and this can be very different in terms of, for example, clinical scientists or more basic scientists, I think find your own niche. It will be important. There's so many people out there, but there's also so much to be done, and it will be good for you to be recognized for something that you can then start out from and then build on later on, so that you really are going to be identified with some piece of the puzzle that you can contribute to. And I think this is important because it makes you responsible, and it helps your commitment, and helps other people recognize your work.
With all your work you described and going on, how can you achieve a good work-life balance?
Well, yes. Well, in fact, this is a term that I don't particularly like because it suggests somehow that work and life, don't go very well together. If you need a balance, so it seems like one is not so good, the other is maybe better or something. And so I find, and this is again another piece of advice, I think if you're really into science and into clinical work, and you want to combine this all, and maybe have a family and a private life, then I think you better like what you're doing. And then it's maybe less of a question of the balance, but it's rather, I think, to really enjoy your work is going to be part of your life. And at the same time, I think, leading a good and happy life will also help your work. And then, of course, there are some practical tips. I mean, from time to time, you simply have to say no. And I think this is very important.
Very important.
Yes, it's very important. And I think, if I may say so, it's probably particularly important for women because there are still fewer of us here in the field. And they therefore get asked very often to chair this and to mentor that. And sometimes it's getting a little overwhelming. And women can never say no. So I think this is something that they need to learn.
That's true. So what kind of role has the International Parkinson and Movement Disorder Society in your career, and what role does it play in the field?
Yeah, so for my career, as I described at the beginning, really this 1998 Congress was the eye-opener for me. So it became very clear, I really want to be involved here, this is great. And over the years, I have met very, very good friends, and I really admire many people involved in the society, and many of them are role models for me. And all of these people have one thing in common, and that is they are very committed to what they're doing. And I think what is so wonderful is that this is such an international community, and really everybody acknowledges your work. You get a lot of support whenever it's needed. You can come up with fresh ideas. You will be supported. So for my career, this has been wonderful, and I really feel like a well-integrated member of the society, and I'm really grateful for that. And in the field, also, very important. I mean, we have just heard the journal, for example, is doing extremely well. Impact factor above 6, now beating stroke. So I think this is wonderful. This is a field that is developing. And in neurology, as a sub-specialty of neurology, but also the field as such, movement disorders, I think you just have to look at this Congress. I mean, we're growing and attracting more and more good brains and good people to our field.
Okay, so last, did you experience bias or barriers during your career development or during your career as a woman in movement disorders?
No, I did not. And in fact, if anything, I may have, because obviously I've been in the field now for 20 years, so I'm not one of the very young women anymore, but at the time there were very few women. So if anything, I think I have benefited from being a woman because obviously, people try to encourage women to get into the field. So I have never experienced that. And I think times have really never been better for our young people to come up and to, step. And I think that is extremely important. I've always had, and this is maybe an interesting and important piece of advice, it's good to have mentors or to look for mentors that will make room for you. And I have always been lucky in having someone who would, also really support me, let me be there, as with my own research, with my own message, and I think this is important that we will, really just support the next generation as much as we can. And I have had that great fortune.
Many thanks, Christine. These were great responses.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you.